Hello and welcome to ACL. And for the first time, we're all here. The whole ligament is with us. We've got our A, Alex Steimel. We've got yours truly, Christian Peck Dimmitt, and he brings a lot of L's, but we have plenty to provide of our own. We've got Luke
Damn.
Morey.
That's what I'm here for.
We provide plenty of L's as it is, though. We were formerly the Great Takes from the Great Lakes, and that was a couple of years ago. We did, 9 episodes, and shout out Tunnel Vision Sports. Let us all, as college interns, put together a podcast, but we're here now. It's official. It's here to stay, and we've got a full-on podcast. It's all your Midwest sports takes. Obviously, around this time in the summer, you're going to get a little bit of everything because a little bit of everything is good, and we can talk about the March Madness coming up in a little bit here. We've got a guest on the show coming up. We had Jack Gulke last week. We have actually his former college roommate Pat Cartier coming on with us about midway through the episode. We're going to talk some MLB opening weekend stuff as well. Our connection, we're all Hillsdale, which is where both Jack and Pat went. That's where they played their first 4 years for Pat, 5 years for Jack. Alex there right now. We got a little bit of a stepping stone. I graduated last year, Luke 2 years ago, and now we're out in the world of sports media and bringing you
Left me behind.
the best Midwest sports takes that nobody asked for from the people that you've
Well,
never heard of.
what else are we gonna do in the Midwest? Like, it's just kind of sitting around and talk about it. But no, it is good to do stuff like this again. For those of you who didn't see our interview with Jack, that was just a ton of fun being able to shoot the shit with him. Great guy that obviously just his path to stardom just super launched. So that was a great one. Check that out if you haven't. Really get into outside of just the Kentucky game, and just kind of his entire trajectory to where he is now, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, like we said, Luke couldn't join us that one, but he was here for this one with Pat. And hopefully the neighbors with the construction sounds like take a little bit of a break so we can get this through, huh?
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm trying to hold them off for a little bit. I might have to hide some of their tools, but we'll see what we can do.
Being
So
out in the Midwest.
is it time for me to, like, I don't know. I want to start with this. What is everybody's thoughts on Zach Edey? Is he fun to watch? Is he frustrating to watch? I'm starting to lean towards frustrating because how are you supposed to defend him? How? Like, someone tell me how you defend someone that big.
I mean, like my family's always been a Purdue fan, so I've been watching Zach for a while. Like I remember even the years before with Isaac Haas, who's another Purdue's had a 7'2" plus big man for the past 20 plus essentially. Like I remember hearing about Zach Edey before he even started playing, and really, like, I don't have much of an answer to that. But what it makes me wonder is what would his social media be like if like Shaq was in college right now, like, or like some specimen like that, where it's like, because like obviously he's not the same physical dominance of Shaq, but like that's a similar level of just overwhelmingly huge, and it's tough. Like it's a tough thing, especially during the Tennessee game. Like 41 points, 40 points. Like he fought for all of them in that game sealing block, but also 22 attempts from the free throw line. And like if you don't have 40 points shooting 22 times from the free throw line, like I don't know, it's tough, but I mean it's cool to see Purdue get to this point because it's been 44 years. So it's, Matt Painter's a hell of a coach, and it's been kind of cool seeing him start to get his flowers because he's deserved them for a while.
Let's be real here. The Tennessee, the Vols had nobody they could throw at them. It was double team or nothing, and a lot of times, sadly, they went with nothing, and that resulted in a huge game from Zach. And he, in the last 30 years, has taken the most free throws in a single season of anyone. Of anyone. The last 50 years, he's got the record 424 free throws attempted, and that is almost 50 more than anyone else. It was Tyler Hansbrough in second, and that was back in the '08 season playing for UNC.
How are you supposed to defend him? What do you do?
That's the thing is regardless of whether you like watching him or not, and regardless of how you feel on the whistle, because let's be real, he does get a pretty kind whistle a lot down low. He's just a guy that's hard to stop. I hate watching him. It's frustrating. It's not fun. I'm sure he's not as much of a high flyer as Shaq, but I do like that comparison in that there's not a lot of big quotation marks if you're just listening and not watching this skill in terms of he's got no bag. His only move is sweep through with the elbows and take that little layup. He's got no real post move that he can put to work time and time again. He's got no outside shot to speak of, same as Shaq. But that doesn't make him any less of an unstoppable force. You don't have to like it, but it's almost what I've come to appreciate with LeBron is that you do have to recognize the greatness. You know what I mean? As a Pistons fan, I grew up watching LeBron come in 4 times a year and smear us up and down the hardwood without
appreciate and
sweating.
LeBron cannot go in the same sentence right now.
I'm just using it as an analogy to say I get where it comes from. You know what I mean? I get where the hate comes from, but you have to recognize how good he is too.
I mean, you don't like he's got a good chance to be like National Player of the Year again. You don't stumble into back-to-back Player of the Year by just getting free throws. Like granted he does get a kind whistle, but also there's a lot of work that he's put in that goes into that. Because I mean, it's kind of been fun watching him over the past couple of years. Like I've had a decent up close. Like I remember, the last year's disappointment, all those kind of they've produced had a lot of March Madness kind of failures, but even watching just how much he's grown throughout that and really taking the team on his back, and he's the reason they're at this point, and there's a reason they got a chance to, hopefully keep playing a couple more games.
Dude, him versus Klingon is gonna feed families.
Him versus Burns feed families. Are you kidding me? That's gonna be like like big men are back, baby.
I want to see what you guys think of this hypothetical, because I was thinking about this the other day. You talked about it like with his one move being the sweeping elbow, and obviously you guys know much more about basketball than I ever will, but like, do you think if a team was able to bring like a Muggsy Bogues level of like short onto their team, he could just like run around? Or is that just not going to work? Like, is he like one of those things where like he's so giant that he'd be slower than the short, like the really short, fast guy that'd be able to make it around him? Or am I like dreaming here?
He's sneaky fast. He played hockey growing up, actually. So like he's quicker.
Oh, he's Canadian, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's quicker on his feet.
Yeah, so that wouldn't work at all.
The floor guy is still, he's not fast, but he's quicker on his feet than people kind of expect. But I do like that. I mean, at this point, you keep on throwing stuff. So if somebody's got some 5'3",
nothing anyone has done has worked.
And again, if you're listening right now, if this is on Instagram or whatever, throw it in the comments. Like, please, am I an absolute idiot, or is this one of those that it's so crazy it could work?
No, it could not. That's ridiculous. Another Player of the Year guy that you don't maybe appreciate as much, but for different reasons, Jamal Shed with Houston. We being out in Big 12 country here, I get a little bit of, I watch him a lot more than maybe some other people have. Kid's a baller, and all the white player comparison where he's just so scrappy. He plays high IQ, good locker room guy, high energy, but that's Jamal Shed. He's black, if you didn't know. He's a hooper. He's super high energy, very athletic, of course, which defies the white player comparison. But he makes the right read every time. He's the best defender in the country, certainly the best guard defender. I'd argue the best defender, period. Absolute hooper. To watch Houston have to go down without him was heartbreaking. That was brutal. Obviously, a tough turned ankle, and the broadcast said maybe 100 times if you were watching that game. He's going to try and give it a go. They're leaving that door open. Door ended up being, just sitting there ajar. He never was able to come back, and they ended up losing. That was a tough one. And then Illinois, to watch them get torn apart. Obviously, that's a Midwest team. My uncle and my grandpa, alumni from Illinois. Golly. I mean, it was tied up at 23. I was watching that game live thinking like, a little side eye type of like, they're hanging around. They're right there. And that was it. It was 50 minutes, 5-0, just short of an hour of real time where Illinois did not score a point. I feel like the only question worth asking, can anybody stop UConn.
If there's one guy, I'm telling you, it's gonna be DJ Burns. It's gonna be DJ Burns. I mean, it would not be a proper entertainment value March Madness if it wasn't DJ Burns.
I feel like Edey can do the same. I feel like Edey is a much better defender too. Him versus Klingon.
No, Christian, you're forgetting. This is the Irrational Podcast where we don't talk about the things that would actually make sense.
Yeah, DJ Burns would go crazy. And let's be the biggest part, I think, of NC State, that the DJs go crazy. Burns and Horn are hoopers, but they've got role players out their ass. Everybody that plays for them can come in and hit big shots, plays at least decent defense, serviceable for everybody down the line. It's almost a complete team that makes you wonder what was happening before their run, because it was the 5 games in 5 days ACC tournament, and even in there, it took a triple kissed off the window at the buzzer to even get to OT against Illinois. I mean, what the hell was going wrong? And I feel like they've just clicked.
I mean, they clicked at the perfect time. They really did. And I mean, especially, I think there's also kind of, I would guess at least, you'd probably have a little bit of that chip on your shoulder being an 11 seed coming in after like you had that run in a tournament that featured some of the best teams in college basketball. I think that probably had a lot to do with it. You're right. I think even like watching them against Oakland as well, like that was something. Obviously, Burns got so much attention, but they are just a complete team, and they just seem to know each other so well, like in terms of having that really high team chemistry. And it's been difficult for any team to shut them down.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's impressive too. You look at it, like we're now in the Final Four for both men and women's, and NC State and UConn both have teams on both sides. Like it just speaks to there's a culture around, and once you get that culture around, and UConn obviously has been around for a long time, but even with NC State and teams like that, you get that kind of the expectation to succeed, or you get that kind of excitement around you, and the support can kind of propel you into levels that you didn't think were possible. And it's cool to see them at this level, and hopefully you get to keep on going.
Program status is a thing I think that isn't recognized enough, where it's just like, you just know how to win is like a broadcaster saying that like nobody gives any credit to, but when you just know how to win, that is absolutely real. You talk to enough players, interview enough players, they absolutely consider that as like, that's just a team. They just know how to win. Got to give a shout out to the women's ball here before we get to the Pat interview. Pat Cartier, CSU Ram, joining the show in a minute here. Monday night's games. It was a doubleheader. Obviously, first it was Iowa LSU, next USC UConn. I sat down and watched almost the entirety of back-to-back college women's games. What? Just that statement is crazy. I did win money on them, but still.
Here's my question for you. And I saw this debated somewhere today, but I wanted to see what you guys thought about it. Obviously, not Angel Reese is obviously out. She was essentially just a huge figurehead. I would say probably goes Caitlin Clark and then her in terms of just notoriety in women's basketball this year. I think most predictions would say that they will make the national championship. If Iowa does make the national championship, and let's say, I don't know, it's like Alabama versus some other team, like not two teams that are as big in men's basketball, do you think that women's national championship has the, I guess, opportunity, or I guess like, is there a chance that could outplay the men's game in terms of views and just entertainment value?
Absolutely, I think so. And like, it's kind of cool. Like we're talking about Midwest sports, WNBA draft's coming up in about a week or two, and Indiana's with the #1 pick is basically guaranteed to get Caitlin Clark. And the excitement around just Indiana as a whole around that, like the Fever last year got Aaliyah Boston with the #1 pick as well, and like there's starting to be more excitement. But the Caitlin Clark, as soon as she declared, literally the same day they sent out season tickets, like they were sending out every season ticket emails. Like the excitement around like women's sports as a whole is reaching a whole new level. And it's like you've always kind of heard the argument of, oh, if more people watch them on the ESPN2 or things like that, then you put them on the main broadcast. And it's like they put them on the main broadcast and they got the viewers. Like if you put them up there, it's kind of the same thing. Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. Like clearly, people are willing to watch, and it's cool seeing this excitement. It's at the best it's been, at least for my time of watching it. But it doesn't feel like this is the end for it. I feel like it's got several more steps where it can keep on growing, and it's cool to be in the middle of.
I'm going to be real here. I have never been a guy. I love women's sports. I love women's college hoops. Have for a while. Obviously, I've done a lot of work with them broadcasting. But I've never tried to force the WNBA. They actually tick me off, especially proponents of the W. I think do the league more harm than good trying to compare it to the men and all this stuff. I think we're at a tipping point where, and we'll talk more about this absolutely with the WNBA, where at what point is it a WNBA problem and not a women's sports problem? Because in 3 years, when the Angel Reeses, the Caitlin Clarks, the Paige Beckers of the world are at their peak in the WNBA and still nobody watches it, at what point is it like they were getting all kinds of views, people love them in college, and they go to this league that's marketed like shit and that nobody wants to watch? Maybe it's just a them problem. Maybe everyone crying sexism is actually just watching a league that's run horribly.
Well, and I think the other thing with that is there is, and you can see it in college sports too. I think like there's a reason the March Madness tournaments on both sides get so much, attention. It's because it is just entertaining basketball in the sense that, you're seeing teams that have gone on these crazy runs sometimes get upset by teams that nobody had ever heard of. Oftentimes it's schools nobody's ever heard of. And I do think you're right. It does get to a point where you do have to look at, is it a issue of like sexism, like people like to say it is, or is the league just poorly run? Because you can look at in the sense that, there's also the factor of, can Caitlin Clark do what she's doing at Iowa at that next level? Where can she go and set all of these records? Can Angel Reese still go and do all of those things and have that notoriety? I also think and this is kind of my, I guess, thought, and when it comes to not even just basketball, but so many sports that have the college to then pro transcendence, when you have a personal tie to a school, as so many sports fans do, your investment in that is always going to be bigger than your pro investment when you've gone to that school, at least in my experience. Someone may disagree with me, but I think especially people who are alumni of these schools, especially schools like Iowa, where correct me if I'm wrong, there's, I think, like minor league hockey and minor league baseball in Iowa, but they don't have any of the major 4 pro sports. So schools are definitely going to be the big attraction where a lot of that is going to come in, unless you guys, I don't know, you feel free to disagree.
No, I think you're right. And I think to go off of what you both are talking about in terms of the marketing for the WNBA too, like even just scheduling is odd. Like I've driven past billboards when they're talking about fever games and it's Monday at 2 p.m. or random times like that, where it's one thing if it's a March Madness, from 12:15 to 10:15, you're watching games, but there's no real rhyme or reason. Like, okay, hockey always has like Wednesday night rivalry nights or things like that, or Tuesday nights, on TNT for basketball. Like there doesn't seem to be as much rhyme or reason where they've carved out a role in like broadcasting or like the media world in terms of, one game or one night a week you're going to get WNBA, and it doesn't seem like they've been able to find that niche that might kind of help them start to get a bit more of a foothold.
We'll talk plenty about the W, about women's sports, but certainly a great night, Monday night. That doubleheader, I think, may end up being the most watched doubleheader maybe ever in college women's hoops, certainly. We are now going to send it off to Patrick Cartier. We're going to get him on the show, an excellent guest. And he spent 4 years at Division II in Michigan, boosted his way up, hit that transfer portal, went to Colorado State, where he finished his career 2 years with the Rams, playing for Nico Medved, and of course joined that Isaiah Stevens squad, and Joel Scott joined them a year later, where they for a season had three, one of them being Pat, 2,000 career point scores on the same squad phenomenal. Of course, that's if you're hitting 2,000 points, you're usually going to have the program record wherever you're at, and basically all three of them do. I believe that Joel Scott at Black Hills, Pat at Hillsdale, and then Isaiah Stevens. Those are the three that were all on the squad at Colorado State. All are the leading point scorers all time. I think Pat's just shy of Hillsdale's record in that department. But a phenomenal guest, a Wisco guy. Apparently, we're on a Wisco streak here, joining us right now. And we are joined now by former, I guess, Colorado State Rams forward Patrick Cartier. You got basically every record in the book. I mean, name a score, name a stat from Hillsdale, the D2 school during your time there. You held it, transferred over, played a couple of years with the Rams, and I understand now you got hopping the sea and playing overseas on the docket.
Yeah, so like we were just talking a little bit pre-show, in the process of getting an agent right now, and then just work out over the summer, do that whole thing, and then normally like American rookies kind of sign overseas mid to late July, so that's probably what I'll be looking at doing. So yeah,
That'll be good. I mean, I guess we'll start by going way back. Going back to, I guess, high school, obviously from Brookfield. Did I see correctly the other day some crazy looking buzzer beater shot from high school? Totally not doing pre-interview prep in the process, but did I see some type of crazy bucket from there? I guess like to start going back to high school.
yeah, no, that was in the state semifinal my senior year. When I was at Brookfield East, playing at the Kohl Center in Madison, Wisconsin, and hit a little turnaround jump hook over now Suns Hawks forward Jalen Johnson, he's actually having a really, really good year this year, so it's pretty cool to have a little claim to fame that way.
What is it with Jack playing against Tyler Hero, now you against him. What is it with Southeast Wisconsin basketball? Has this been a thing the entire time that just nobody knows about, or maybe just I'm stupid and I don't know about it? But what's going on?
I mean, there's always like, especially these last I feel like 6-7 years, there's been a good amount of talent coming out. Obviously, like Tyler Hero, that I know that clip. A bunch of my teammates and buddies have been sending me that clip that's resurfacing of Jack playing him in him and Tyler Hero's senior year. And I was actually at that game that they played at Pewaukee, and then like Jack obviously knocked him out of the playoffs. That was also resurfacing. But yeah, so if you look at like Tyler Hero, me and Jack, obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was in our class as well. Not Southeastern, but he was in our class in Wisconsin. And then even like Jordan McCabe was like obviously an internet sensation. Tristan Jazz, who I don't know if you guys have heard of. He's like he does all the crazy layups and stuff on Instagram. He was in our class too. So just a lot of like random. And then you get like a Jalen Johnson, like I said, Patrick Baldwin Jr., those guys all like feel like are putting on a good rep for the state for sure.
And you got that Monchilovich kid up in Iowa State. Was he Wisco?
Yeah. He's from Pewaukee, so he's same place that I don't think him and Jack ever overlapped just with the age difference, but yeah, he played for Pewaukee too. So yeah.
Now I think it was Luke that found this. Did you play Tyrese Halliburton in the state finals?
Yeah, we did. We lost to them in the state final, I think by like 15 or something like that. He set like a state, I don't know if it was like a straight up Wisconsin state record or just at like the state championship, but he was 19 for 19 from the free throw line in that game, which is just insane. So yeah, still definitely not bitter about it, but
I'm curious, when you're watching, like you're talking about Jalen Johnson, Tyrese, Tyler Hero, people like that, when you're watching them now at this level, do you see kind of flashes of what you saw on the high school level of like, oh, I remember seeing those kind of moves, things like that?
It's crazy. Like, I mean, it's really a credit to those guys. Because you never know. Like Wisconsin, obviously, is like it's a good hoop state, but it's not like Chicago or like New York or something like that, where it's just a straight pipeline like every year. So like you're always a bit skeptical. I mean, like I remember thinking about Tyrese in particular, and I think a lot of people did were not expecting him to even be that good in college. Like he was pretty under recruited. Like Wisconsin didn't even reach out to him or anything like that, I think. So credit to him and all the work that he's put in and seeing him do what he's doing. I did not expect that. That's for sure. Tyler Hero, he was like kind of highly touted going to Kentucky, so you could kind of maybe see that he was going to have a good future. But yeah, no, it is pretty cool.
So now, end of your high school career, you talked about these other guys maybe not getting recruited as much. Obviously, you ended up going D2 initially. Talk to me about, that whole process of getting recruited out of high school.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of just like everybody else, doing the AU thing in the summer, which is obviously when college teams are out of their season, so they can kind of a bunch of those assistant coaches can kind of come watch you play. So kind of picked up some steam after my junior year, like during that summer going into senior year, which is super popular recruiting time for guys looking to play college hoops. So I started to get a decent amount of D2 interest and kind of because it's like, especially sometimes some college coaches like to put some pressure on you in terms of like, we only have this many scholarships. So decided to, and I visit Hillsdale, and as you guys Hillsdale alum, like I loved it. I loved the coaches, loved the guys in the team. So it was kind of a no-brainer. So committed, yeah, like before my senior season. I think I would have maybe if I had played out my senior season all the way through, I maybe would have gotten some Division I interest, but I would not change my path or journey for anything. Obviously, I got, like you said, I got to meet guys like Jack and um, have some lifelong relationships and friendships from Hillsdale. So yeah, it worked out.
And then obviously like you did end up playing at the D1 level, which the transfer portal seems to have just opened up so many different avenues. And we were talking to Jack a little bit. I've just, I guess, even in attempting to do research, it still like kind of baffles me how it works. But obviously playing the 3 years here and then making that transfer. What was like the biggest I guess difference you found in not even just in basketball, but just in kind of a day-to-day life between a D2 school and a D1 school?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely more of a commitment. I think like D2, for example, we get all of our summers off. And D1, you get, I think it's 8 weeks that coaches get, they get to be on campus for. So the level of commitment definitely ratchets up. I remember like Jack was like had like an accounting internship. I had an internship. A bunch of the guys in the team like worked during the summer, which is just weird to think about now versus like how much time you put in over the summer and stuff. But that, and then I would say like the amount of staff. I remember like my first workout, I had like 4 or 5 people like rebounding for me. I'm like, what is this? Is like, I feel like I'm in the NBA. Like, it's so different versus just like when we were at Hillsdale, like we just used to rebound for each other and that type of stuff. So that was very different. And then just like the athleticism, the physicality, the pace of play, obviously all that ratchets up too. So yeah, that was definitely an adjustment for me. But yeah, all that stuff.
So obviously with the transfer portal and your whole experience, and I got a couple of questions on it, but I know when we originally talked, it was a lot to do with academics, the transferring, going to get your master's, was going to affect where you were going to play. But, I was doing that for the school paper. So how much was that a lie, basically? It was stretching of the truth.
I mean, it was definitely a part of it. I think, like I did spend 4 years at Hillsdale, so I had taken like all my classes, and as you guys know, as Hillsdale guys, like there's not a ton of grad school opportunities there. So I didn't want to just kind of be like wasting time with school. And obviously it doesn't totally feel like school's like a big thing when teams are flying you out and stuff and you're meeting with the coaches, having nice dinners and stuff like that. But it was definitely a piece of the pie for sure, I would say. Just having that added, like having a school pay for 2 years of graduate school is like it's obviously a big deal. So
And maybe I'm setting myself up for failure with another stretching of the truth here, but with the transfer portal, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, we see so much online about how much players are getting offered and how all that works. Talk to me about how much was NIL money, especially back then, a recruiting tool? How did that work? What did that look like? Obviously, if that's, something you want to
What
talk
he
about.
really wants to know is how many cars did they offer you?
No, to be honest, like, and I think it just speaks to like the coaching staff here. Like, there's an NIL collective that exists, and there's like obviously getting some cash with that, but it's much more about the people and the relationships, as that may sound very cliche, but I've heard some crazy stories of guy like six, seven figures guys that like you feel like you might be better than, and then they go somewhere and they get so it's like, holy smokes, man. It's definitely changed. And like, I don't know, obviously like it can kind of be a game of telephone sometimes of people maybe stretching the numbers and if people are actually getting those numbers and stuff, but no, it's crazy.
It's a
I'm
very
curious,
political answer.
is that kind of the biggest difference between like the high school recruitment to transfer portal, or is there another thing that kind of sticks out as the biggest difference of, because obviously it's a different level of recruitment, but what kind of sticks out as the biggest difference between those two?
No, yeah, I would say one of the biggest differences, like once you enter the transfer portal, it was like I got like 30, 40 phone calls within the first like couple days of just like how fast it is, where it's like in high school, it's like the whole, like I talked about, like it's the whole summer with AAU and stuff, and you play a tournament, and maybe you hear from a couple schools, and then next week you have another tournament, maybe hear from a couple other schools. So yeah, it's just like the timeline of it is so fast. And yeah, obviously like when I was coming out of high school, NIL didn't exist. And I think the first year of NIL, I think it was my last year at Hillsdale, so it was still pretty new when I was coming out transfer portal. Like I can't imagine being in there now. It's probably like, and I know it's talking to some of our assistant coaches too, and just hearing some stories from other people. It's like sometimes it's like one of the first questions that like recruits are asking, just like being straight up front of just like, and if you're not offering enough money, kind of just moving on. So it's like, yeah, no, it's pretty insane. It's definitely changed the landscape.
Were those 40 calls all D1?
There was some like D2 and then like some like lower level D1 as well. And yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, cause like obviously I had a good amount of success at the D2 level and put up good numbers. So it's like I didn't really know where my interest would be or
Only set a couple of Hillsdale records, but okay records.
Yeah, no. So it was pretty crazy. It was a cool experience for sure, just to be like have that whole like recruiting process over again and being able to end up here. So yeah.
Obviously, Coach Medved's a guy, and especially with this year's roster, utilizes the way the transfer portal works now, where you get a lot of these non D1 guys or guys that started maybe at these lower levels. How much does that affect like the transition, and what was that like moving D2 to D1?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like some of the biggest adjustments were just the size and speed and athleticism. Obviously, like I'm like 6'8", 230, and like at D2, that's like a pretty solid. Like I'd say I'm like maybe on the bigger end of like a 5-man in Division 2, and then compared to Division 1 and like in the Mount West, I'm like probably like the shortest, the smallest, and like I don't have long wingspan either. So like that adjustment of like just having to find new ways to like use your IQ and use angles and just stuff like that, and watch film and figure out how you're gonna navigate kind of some of these bigger athletic guys, I think was definitely a big adjustment for me. So
yeah. So and then I guess obviously we're talking about NIL, and we were able to interview your old teammate Jack Oakey last week. And obviously like the NIL deals for him have just been pouring through. We did want to know how much have you been getting from those NIL? Have you been getting any free B-Dubs wings? Has TurboTax been hooking you up? Obviously as an old teammate, you'd think he'd kind of do right by his old buddies, right?
hold on, I'm gonna grab something real quick.
Oh no.
What are we thinking? Sweatshirt?
Either sweatshirt or it's what do we think? B-Dubs, or is it one of the Golki like sweatshirts, or maybe what could TurboTax have sent? Oh,
hey, there you go.
Just came in the mail today. Jack Golki, barstoolsports.com. Go buy it. 80% of the proceeds go to Jack. No, I haven't seen any B-Dubs or anything. I spent my money on that. So I told Jack he owes me $40 for buying that.
Jack told me yesterday that's part of his deal. All you can eat for a year, B-dubs.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. Because we were talking about how crazy it is, and I think he might have told you guys the story about how he's had like a couple of his high school buddies kind of being his NIL agent.
That's just crazy.
No, it's so funny, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. I'll tell you what too about it's obviously a crazy story, and it's like it feels like every year there's some like guy like Jack that blows up in March Madness, but this wasn't like an accident. It's not something that just like kind of happened to him. Like he's a very hard worker, and he obviously spent reps and hours working on his jump shot, and it's not something that was like a fluke. So I'm really, really happy for him. And it was good for me too, because like his game was going out, like his games tipped, I think like 15 or 20 minutes after our game did on that first Thursday March Madness. So it's like I came out of the locker room at halftime, and they like have the games up on the screens, and like I saw like Jack hit a three like as we were like coming out of half, and obviously we had an abysmal first half. I think we only scored 11 points, so it's like, and I saw him hit a three, and the crowd was like going crazy in Charlotte where we were. And then after the game, they put his game up again, and as I was talking to my family, saw them finish the deal versus Kentucky, and it was a really cool experience, especially like me and him both, like you said, from southeastern Wisconsin, and just growing up a little bit in college together, being freshman year roommates, and have so many fun times, and just to watch him and do his thing in March Madness was pretty special.
Yeah, we actually got to hear an old story that Jack told us from what was it, the 2022 Elite Eight, Christian? Was that what it?
I think it was the year before.
So it was something like that. We were just kind of, he was telling us old stories. There was one of do you remember pulling a chair out from underneath Jacob Nagovi? Does that story ring a bell?
Yeah, no, I don't even know, like, so he was in like a terrible mood for some reason. I don't know why. He's like a kind of a weird dude, John. I love him to death. But yeah, we were in this. It was during like the whole COVID thing. Like we were the 1 seed, so in a normal year we would have hosted, but West Liberty got to host. So we were staying in this like resort or whatever. So we were in this like big, just kind of like conference room almost, and it was so fun. We'd have meetings in there, and then we would just like hang out and watch the other D2 games for like 4 or 5 hours and just do random stuff. But yeah, I remember I pulled the chair out from Gobes, and he was extremely upset with me. But it's good times for sure.
Well, Pat kind of got to, or Jack kind of got to expose you a bit. Do you have any, or I guess like if someone asked you like what the funniest Jack story you have is, what's kind of the first thing that comes to mind without getting him in too much trouble?
I know, yeah, there are a few that I feel like would get him in trouble, and those ones, of course, that come to mind right away. But nah, man. I mean, just like here's one. Not too much of a story, but just kind of something funny. After when so there was the whole, I think it was the COVID season in the bubble, I'm pretty sure. So like the whole NBA playoffs were pushed back. So normally, like I said, we're not there for the summer. So Jack, huge Celtics fan. Me, Jacob Nagobi, and like even like Cole now, huge Bucks fans. So the Celtics were playing the Heat, I think in the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble. And so normally, like I said, over the summer, like we didn't get to watch the games together really, but we were always super locked in on the NBA. So it was really cool that it was in the fall, so we were able to watch the NBA playoffs together. And Jack, like, I think he just recently purchased like a entire like Celtics head to toe jumpsuit of like they're like what is it, Kelly Green or whatever? Or, no, that's the Eagles, whatever they're just full head to toe jumpsuit, Boston Celtics. And he was getting really into this game, and I think they lost on like a buzzer beater versus the Heat or something, because the Heat had just beaten the Bucks too. And I remember me and Jacob Nagobi were just clowning him and making fun of him, and then he stormed off into his room. He was like, "Why do I waste so much time and energy on this team?" And he was just like, so many moments like that was just like being so invested in the NFL, NBA. It's a lot of good times for sure.
So moving ahead a little bit to your CSU time, back to ball. you got a chance, obviously, to play with some very good guards. You mentioned Cole during your Hillsdale time. Obviously, Isaiah Stevens, considered one of the best guards in the country, has been for a while, obviously, and uh, getting to play with him as a big man. Thoughts on that? I mean, how much does that elevate your game? How much, working together with him was that good?
Yeah, I heard something recently. It was some type of quote. It was like good players like are like great themselves. Great players are able to make the other people around them good players. So I think Isaiah is like the definition of that. He's such a special talent, man. He's such a good leader too. And in terms of just setting the tone for us like this summer with a bunch of new guys that we had coming in, some transfers and stuff. He's just so he's just an unbelievable player. He gets everybody involved, so it's just kind of an infectious thing of us like sharing the ball, giving the ball energy, as Coach Medved always would say. And he's an unbelievable player, and he should 100% be on an NBA team next year in some way. So I hope he gets that opportunity.
Interested, you mentioned it right there, but Hillsdale, very much a program that, as you know, prides itself. Redshirt that first year, you're staying for 5 or 4 at the very least, and you move up, especially with the landscape of the transfer portal right now, into D1 where you have a lot of turnover. How different was that? And, what was it like dealing with, half a new roster every year? Obviously just, the 1 year difference that you had there.
No, it's crazy. I think I don't remember the exact number, but at Hillsdale, I think Coach Tharp only had, I think not including me and Jack, I think he only had like maybe 2 people transfer out, which is just insane. I think he was there for like 15 years. So to have like that type of culture where guys stay and like, yeah, like you said, red shirt, which I think like for me, and I think Jack will tell you the same thing, Pete and Jacob Nagobi too, we've all redshirted together. I think they would all say that I was like the best thing for them. I think I put on like 15 or 20 pounds of muscle that year. In terms of us just being able to work on our game and be on scout team and have that type of freedom and gain confidence that way. And then, like you said, spend a 4-year career there. So basically a whole college career, and then 2 years here. So it almost felt like not like jumping to professional, but it felt like, because I spent 4 years doing that and then 2 years somewhere here at CSU. And it was like similar vibe with like Coach Medved does such a good job of like just bringing in good people and having good people as coaches too. That like that type of like family culture that, Coach Tharp and Coach Bradley now I think pride themselves so much on is pretty similar here at CSU. So yeah, that made the transition a lot easier. But like you said, there are a ton of turnover with transfers and all that stuff. So that's definitely a difference.
I was interested in one more thing here. It's something that Jack talked about as well. You obviously, we've talked a lot with you about the transfer portal. He's talking about this like you can literally have coaches recruiting their, rival players off of rival teams mid-season, texting nuts. People during active seasons. Did you see any of that? How much maybe did you even experience of it?
I wouldn't say, just because I was a little older, like in my time here, I don't think I got any of that really, and I was always playing a lot. So, but no, that is very real. I think even I'm not gonna obviously name names, but like some of my teammates hearing things from other coaches that we play against, or you just hear stories like of guys and coaches reaching out to like AAU coaches or high school coaches about, hey, like what's so and so thinking about next year. And so there's definitely, like, if you want to call it like tampering or whatever, there's definitely some of that going on, which is pretty crazy. That like I think obviously the easiness of the transfer portal and NIL, I think all has kind of played a role in that. So
yeah. All right. I guess we did this with Jack last week. We're gonna do it again. Just we're gonna do a couple of quick hitter ones, just kind of rapid fire. So to start, you've been in Colorado, but I kind of want to know, hiking or swimming?
Hiking, for sure.
Hiking.
I used to be a good swimmer. Sorry, I know you said quick hitter. I used to be a good swimmer. But I'm terrible. I can tread for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes maybe, and I always try and put on a life jacket if I'm jumping off a boat or anything like that. So,
All right, you're getting thrown in a dunk contest. What's your move?
man, I'm definitely more of a land animal nowadays than I maybe was my first couple years at Hillsdale, but I would say like I think I could still do a little like reverse double clutch kind of. That used to be kind of my go-to. We would do like I remember me and Peter Kalatoff, like our retro year, we'd always try to like do as many crazy dunks as we could because we weren't playing. So that was kind of our game, was just in warm-ups trying to do whatever. So that's always one I would go to.
You just I guess another hypothetical. You just woke up. It's dinner time in Fort Collins. Where's your like first go-to spot for dinner?
Dude, it sounds terrible. I love Chipotle, like, and especially coming from Hillsdale, where it's
Yep.
obviously the closest one. It's like 40 minutes away. Like I have a
Yep.
serious appreciation for it. Chicken al pastor is back, limited time. So I would like that's what I said right away. I think, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I think like Crazy Carl's is like it's like a mini chain kind of out here, and they have pretty good pizza. So that's a good place that me and my teammates go to sometimes too. And they have good wings. So
And I guess also like on the I'm assuming I know the answer to this just based on the fact that you're more of a big man than like a guard or something, but crossover or dunking on someone?
oof, definitely dunk on someone. Well, is it like crossover, hit the shot, or is it?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I'd still probably say dunk on someone.
And then I guess to finish it off, you get to travel anywhere in the country, or anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world outside of the country. Where are you going?
So we went to Greece as a basketball team. So that probably would have been high on my list, but I've already been there. I would love to go to some like because I haven't really gone in like to the Caribbean much. So I'd love to go to like Turks and Caicos or something, or even like maybe like I know this isn't Caribbean, but like the Maldives or something like that, where it's just super tropical, hang on a beach for a few days. Because I've never really totally done that. So
I got to know the other side of that. Getting crossed, you hit the hardwood, they hit the shot, or you get put on a poster.
ooh, I don't know if I've ever like really like in a game gotten like crossed up. I feel like I've definitely gotten dunked. I don't know if I've really gotten like completely body postered, but I've definitely gotten dunked on before. Like Pete's dunked on me for sure. I would say dunked on just because I'm like a big man, so people kind of more expect it. If you got a little guard crossing you up, like that Kemba Walker highlight, you kind of just look so stupid. I would say getting dunked on.
All right, we appreciate you taking the time. We'll get you out on one last one. You talked about wanting to go playing overseas and a little bit in the process. What does that look like? Obviously, I'm assuming you're more or less done as a Rams guard. Individually on that day-to-day, what does it look like? Like, what do you actually have to do in terms of hiring an agent and getting in contact with teams over there?
Right, yeah. So right now I'm like just kind of taking phone calls. It kind of honestly feels a little bit like you're getting recruited out of like high school or something like that, with just like talking to people, getting a feel for the agent, because you have to place a ton of trust in your agent, because they are like, because obviously I don't have any connections to overseas teams, and they do, and so you gotta kind of feel that out, do Zoom calls, kind of just hear information where they think they might see you next year, and like fit and all that type of stuff. So that's what it looks like right now. I think going forward, there is like some agencies have like pre-draft stuff where they want you to come for like a couple weeks to a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, to go to somewhere in the US and do like a pre-draft training process. And then there's a pretty good chance I get into a couple NBA workouts, just because once some of the like upper echelon guys kind of like call it quits and they do their couple workouts or whatever, then a lot of teams just kind of start needing guys. So I might get that opportunity, which would also be super cool. And then there's potential summer league thing, but whether that happens or not, just obviously kind of workout, weight room, conditioning, make sure I'm in shape, and then I think mid to late August is when normally a lot of overseas guys head over for their training camp. So yeah, that's kind of the timeline. And then you're over there until like April, May, most of the time, sometimes even June, depending on how good your team is and how far you go in the playoffs. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, that's it.
Twin Towers, you and Pete, what are the chances?
What's that?
What are the odds you and Pete, Twin Towers?
Oh man, that would be great. That would be so much fun.
I
I
think
think
you'd have
that
to grow out a beard then, though, man.
this is about all I got. A little peach fuzz stubble coming. That's about all I can do. I don't have a beard in me, unfortunately. But no, I mean that would be awesome. Even just like playing the same league as him or be close to him where we could come see each other. Obviously, because like I don't know anybody overseas, so it'd be fun to have connections and maybe Jack's over there too, or like a couple other guys that I know. That'd be sick.
Patrick Cartier, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Gents, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Patrick Cartier, a phenomenal guest. We're thrilled to have him join us, and he referenced it there, but we'll absolutely have him back as well. But it is time to shift gears, hit the diamond. Baseball started up last week, and I know that there is a big grin sitting on Alex Dimel's face for one reason and one
How
reason only.
about them Tigers? Holy shit. I don't like see this is the problem though. I do this every year and I tell myself I'm not gonna do it. Happens. They get off to some start, they get their win. I'm like, oh, it's the year, it's the year. I'm not gonna say that. It's early. It has been great so far. I mean, they're 4-0. I believe we're still currently in a rain delay before we start against the Mets. And I will say we beat a White Sox team that's not great by any sense. I mean, it's definitely projected to finish low. But I mean, just all around, the bats have been good. I wouldn't say great yet. I mean, Sean Manaea just pitched incredibly yesterday. There was really no way to touch him until he was gone, and then the 5-run 10th was incredible. But even before that, I do think, and I will say this now, this is not me getting ahead of myself. I swear, Turek Skubal is at least going to be in the Cy Young conversation. There's no doubt about it. Unless something happens, some fluke injury.
Does that not feel, as it left your lips, like an overreaction? No.
Don't ruin this for me, man.
Hey, man, I'm loving it too. I'm not
this.
saying I wouldn't love it if it happened, but overreact no.
I do think like he has been. If anyone paid attention to the end of last year, he was arguably the best pitcher in baseball, or at least in the American League, at the end of last year. He just went out there. He was injured to start. He's been great. The bullpen too, which I was not expecting at all. Obviously brought Andrew Chafin back. Jason Foley's been great. I think he hit 101 miles an hour on a pitch yesterday. He's consistently throwing 100. Pitching all around's been good, and the bats are getting there. Definitely some new bats have been great. Mark Canha's been great. Carson Kelly's been a great add, and then the guys that are still around, Torkelson, Riley Green, and Colt Keith. Really exciting prospect coming up, which has been awesome. I think it's going to be a good year. I don't know if it's the year yet. I don't know that I want to say that definitively. Like, it's been a great run so far. But I will stick to my Scoobs prediction. I think he'll be in the conversation without a doubt.
Let's open that up a little bit because we're blessed here on ACL to be following our Midwest teams. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but by my assessment, I feel like the two most open divisions in baseball are going to be the two central divisions. The most up for grabs. And
yes, and I think unfortunately the reason for that is that it's not as much like talent. Like the
no, of course they're not as good, but I'm saying as far as if you're a fan of maybe the Tigers or the Royals in the AL and one of maybe three different teams in the NL, you feel like they've got a decent shot, no?
Yeah, I think it could be up for grabs. I do think it's going to be the Tigers and the Twins in contention.
Sure,
I think the Royals are doing something good. I think obviously Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be the face of that franchise. Extending him was genius. I mean, the guy's I don't think this season he's had odds for. Normally, if you go on and you're going to bet on someone to get a hit, it's 0.5 for for them. You're betting on them to at least get one hit. For him, you have to bet on him getting two.
Oh, the
line is 1.5.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
It's he's obviously going to be a mega star. I will say I haven't really done much digging outside of that, which I should.
He's hit back-to-back homers. They're playing the Orioles right now. It's game 2 of the series as we're recording this. Orioles up 3-1, so I don't know. But the two games coming in, 1 yard back-to-back games.
I mean, take it and run if you're a Royals fan. Obviously, it's been kind of up and down. I do, I guess, going to the opposite side of the country. Zach Gallen, watch out. That's all I'm going to say. He's pitching tonight. That's actually my pick of the week this week is tonight. Yankees against Diamondbacks, I believe, in Arizona. D-backs easily. Zach Gallen's gonna take it home. I think the D-backs are minus 110 odds. So if you picked that, you won some money.
Didn't the Rockies take one from the Snakes a couple of days ago?
That's probably because Gallen wasn't pitching.
There you go. Yeah,
it's Zach Gallen day, as Rico Bosco would say. It's Zach Gallen day to those who celebrate.
That is a great point. Is we're trying to do picks of the week here on ACL, and Dimel just gave his, but we sort of skipped over where my pick was at. Do you have one this week, Luke?
Yeah, I realized as soon as you were talking about pick of the week, I should have thrown it in when I was talking about NC State and Purdue, but NC State is 9-point underdogs against Purdue, and I don't know if they're going to beat Purdue, but I'd take that.
I'd take it easy.
I'd take that because
is it at 8.5 or 9.5?
9.
I mean, Vegas is going to Vegas, but I would still take that easily.
I would still take it. I feel like they've got I wouldn't be stunned if they pull out a win, and I don't think it's going to be an easy win by any means if Purdue is able to pull it out. So I would take that.
I'm with you actually on that one. I'll be real for my pick. I did win money on women's ball Monday night, so I'm riding with them.
Still rolling.
The trouble is the two teams I wrote on, it was an Iowa UConn money line parlay. They're playing each other, so I can't ride. I gotta drop one of my squads here. That game's Friday night. That's a Final Four game of Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark. Good Lord, that's gonna be fun. I'm actually gonna this will be the second time in a week I'm planning on sitting down and watching a women's college ball game. That's a wild sentence for me to say. If you told 5 years ago me, he'd laugh. But the line on that is UConn plus 2.5. To be honest, I'm flip-flopping on this a little bit. I like Iowa minus 2.5, though. I think that UConn does not have the depth to run with Iowa, and Iowa doesn't play particularly fast, but they're very guard heavy. They got a lot of short wings, and UConn just does not go deep at all. I want to see Iowa minus 2.5.
See, here's my question: if we're gonna do picks of the week, do we need to make some type of competition or prize out of this?
Yes, and what we also need to do, these are not, I don't know what sort of legal thing we need to say. Only bet money, you can lose, blah, blah, blah.
Bet responsibly.
Please don't blame it on us.
If you have a gambling problem, call the gambling hotline, 1-800-GAMBLER.
Why do you know that? That's so not good.
I called it a couple times.
That's so not good.
No, I will say, I promise I have not had to call it, but it is I will say, I think it is one of those things where you do see it everywhere since gambling is legalized. Maybe it's just me.
Which is good. I think every time I log in to FanDuel or DraftKings, I use both. Sponsor us, please. When you log in, it gives you the number to call. Please bet responsibly. Only bet what you can lose unless it's a lock. No, okay. That was probably not good to say. But yeah, so let's go. I got Iowa 2.5. Was it +9?
+9 for NC State.
And then just Diamondbacks money line. I believe it's minus 110 tonight. Take it and run with it. But yeah, and I guess if you're listening, comment if you're on Instagram, Twitter, any of other social medias, comment what you think a good competition would be. I don't know if we do monthly competitions or something like that, at the end of the month, but I think it'd be good. And like I said, happy Zach Gallen Day to all those who celebrate.
And happy first full episode of ACL Day for everybody that celebrates.
The full ligament.
If the full ligament is here, we never want it torn, but it was, and that's okay. But we have Pat Cartier coming in, guest number 2. We're going to try to get as many guests on as we can because let's be real, listening to us three talk for an hour straight is not something I would wish on my worst enemy. But we're going to be back, and we're going to be back next week.